Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for stopping through another episode of Digital Soul Presents. I'm very honored to have this next gentleman on, who is a very, very legendary artist, songwriter, keyboardist, and from many legendary groups as well. Also has a new song out, which is a very, very good interpretation of a classic Thelonious Monk cut called Round Midnight. When I saw that, I immediately thought to myself, I got to give this brother a call. Was already a fan of his work, but when I saw this, it just really touched me to call him, and he answered the call. So I'm very honored to have him stop by. We could talk a little bit about the new song and its history. I want to welcome my brother Hubert Eaves III here. Thank you so much for stopping through.
All right, brother. All right, brother John.
Thank you, Hubert. First of all, how you doing so far, man? How you doing today?
I'm great, man. I'm good. I had a little bout. I just got over COVID, so make sure everybody knows that it's still here.
It's still here. Yeah.
It's still here. So I got over it, but I'm fine now. So
Good. That's good to hear. It's good to
yeah.
hear. And not only are you recovering from COVID and looking good, but you're also sounding good with this new song out, Around Midnight. And it's been a while, man. It's been several decades, and you're back with a good sounding cut here, man. I want to know how did this all come about here?
Oh man, I never wanted to be out front. I like producing, writing, and arranging, playing, and all of that good stuff. That stuff. That's what I enjoy, man. I've always. So, this is actually in 50 years. This is only my second album
Yeah,
under my name.
yeah.
But that particular song came about back in the 70s. I was playing in a jazz club in Brooklyn, and I was playing with Spike Lee's dad, who plays a acoustic bass. And I say rest in peace because he just passed away a few months ago.
Yeah, yeah.
But I was playing in the club with him and some other members in the band, and uh, next thing I know, man, Thelonious Monk comes in the club with his wife,
Wow.
and they sit down. He's celebrating his birthday. So I didn't know that, Bill Lee and Monk were cousins. So as a result, he came by, Bill invited him to come by and hang for his birthday. Little small intimate club.
Yeah,
And so we wanted to dedicate a song to him, and that was Round Midnight. So we're going back to the 70s, man. So, I always loved Monk's songs. I always loved Monk, and to be able to play that for him, and all he needed to do was give me a nod to say thank you. That was enough for me,
yeah,
So it wasn't about sales or nothing. Just the respect and love I had for him. So I always felt like I wanted to redo that song, and but I wanted to do it in my way. You know what I mean? Because it's been played. Do you know that Round Midnight is the most recorded jazz song in history? So everybody's done it in every kind of interpretation. So, I just felt like I would add mine.
yeah. Absolutely. And it sounds amazing. And you included two very, very, very excellent sounding singers involved too, as well, Lamont O'Neill and Felicia Mitchell.
Yeah.
Talk about him, the process of involving them and picking them to do the song.
Well, I used to play at a church back about maybe 10, 11 years ago. I was doing some music ministry stuff back then. And one of the ministers was Lamont O'Neill. And I always loved him because he had been to he studied jazz. He went to school for jazz, and so he knew the intricacies of what it took to pull off a vocal like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a cousin. He would tell me about his cousin. He said, "Man, you got to hear my cousin." So one day I was playing. I went up to play for the youth, and he was there, and his cousin was there, and I heard them two together. And once I heard them together, I was like, "Oh my God, man, this has got to happen." That was 10, 11 years ago.
Yeah.
So I always had it in my mind, in my ears that in my spirit
Mm.
that I want to put those two together.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's amazing, man. Amazing. Now the project, I know you said that this is the first in a lot of years. Now, is the project fully done yet, or when can we receive the final full length album?
Yeah, I have 10 songs, man. This is just the first one,
Hmm.
and I'm loving the response to it,
Yeah,
which is why we're here. So
yeah,
thank
absolutely,
you. Thank
absolutely.
you. But no, I got 9 more songs, and but they're all varied. They're different kinds of songs. They're a collection of stuff I've done over the past maybe 30, 40 years. Some of these people like
Yeah,
James Mtume is on it, who's gone.
yeah,
Reggie Lucas, who's on songs, he's gone.
yeah.
Harry Whitaker, another keyboard player that he and I used to play with Roberta Flack together.
Dang.
And I had him on the project back then, and he's gone. So it's a really special project for me, and it's a legacy project because I dedicate songs to those guys. And my dad always used to say, he used to tell me, "So man, I know how much you love funk and you like playing pop music and R&B and dance music." He said, "But I want you to play jazz." I always, he that was his thing. He always poured into me about jazz. That's all he would listen to.
Yeah,
So I dedicated this project to him as well as Thelonious Monk too.
that's beautiful. That is beautiful. And then also for the single "Around Midnight," there's also a video that I happened to come across too as well. Talk about the making of that, and also who directed the video for that single.
Oh yeah, my man Al Santana directed it, man.
Very good.
Uh, I had a script and I had some ideas in mind, which is the basic idea of it. But once I was able to get with Al Santana, he brought it to fruition, man. His vision came about. He took it to a place where beyond what I had, and he's an artist. You can look up his work on Facebook, Instagram, and so forth, man. Al Santana, and he's you know he's just one of those creative cats, man. That when you want to do something like that, you want to call him.
Very
That's
cool.
what I'm called.
Yeah.
He told me he's so busy with his artwork. He told me, he said, "Man, I can't do any more videos, man. I got to focus on my artwork." He said, "That's too much time." But then now he's seeing the response to this video, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Man, I might just want to do one more." You can call me.
Yeah,
So
definitely,
yeah,
definitely. Yeah, you guys did some amazing work on that. But the video and the song combination is very memorable. So yeah, very good recording there. Very well done.
It begins to tell round midnight, round midnight. I do pretty well till after sundown. Supper time, I'm feeling sad, but it really gets bad around midnight.
it was fun too, man.
Yeah,
That was the main thing. Everything is about fun, man. At this age, I can't. I'm trying to live stress free. I'm trying to be, positive and loving, and
I heard
and
that.
trying to receive that and give it, and that's what it's about to me. I'm 77 years old, man.
Right. I
I ain't
heard
got time to be messing around with all that.
that.
Been there, done that.
Right, right. You done seen it all.
Not all, but enough.
Now your history, like I know you mentioned, it's been about 50 years now. Your history, of course, has been a long gap, but nevertheless, in my collection of albums, I could pick up a large number of albums, and I see your name on the back of very, very many recordings. So you were very, very busy, for the last several decades. But I know there's some background to beginning to that part. Talk a little bit about beginning to play piano and about what age you started to get a little bit of interest in playing.
Well, I came. My dad always had a piano at the house, man.
Mm.
So when he came home one day from work and heard me banging on the piano, and that's all I was doing is banging. And he started me. He knew enough about it to get me started. So he was like, when he would listen, he would say, "Man, I love the way this dude is banging." Different language back then, but he said it was the way that I was banging that made him know that there was something that he needed to invest in.
Wow.
So he poured into me. He had me practicing, and he didn't technically know what he was doing, but he knew what that he had. He knew he had to develop me. He knew he had to bring that interest out of me and pour into me what he had, which
Right.
I appreciated because it was all sincere, and he gave me the best he had.
Right. Now, I know
But
you said the piano was there. Did he play too, or was he
he
just
played, but he played piano. He messed around with.
okay?
He also played guitar. What he would
Gotcha.
do, I would listen to him at night, man. I'd be in the bed, and what he would do was everybody asleep. He'd go into the kitchen. We had a little small apartment. He'd go into the kitchen with his guitar, and he'd sing the blues. Just him, right? Turn the oven up so he got nice and warm. And
Wow.
back in those days in Minnesota, you had to have the heat on,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
all time. So he'd go there and play, and I would listen to him play the blues, and it just music was always there, man. Was there, and then from there I started going into, as a little kid, maybe 15, 14, 15 years old, and hanging around with different guys that had different R&B bands and blues bands, and then I would play and sit in, and I had always had a pretty good ear,
Okay.
so I could always like kind of blend in and fit in with what was going on, and I just it was just a natural thing, man. It just that's all. Like when I look back at it, I'm doing everything that I was supposed to be doing. It was just I can't imagine doing anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's good that you caught it early, and it's kind of led you to the path that you're at today. So yes, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've done, like I said, man, I've done, yeah, as you know, I've played on many hit records, so-called hit records, and been involved in with a lot of great artists, man, from Luther to D Train, from Whitney Houston to, man, Teddy Pendergrass, Stephanie Mills. I've been there. I've been, and it's such a joy and such a pleasure and such a blessing to have had the experiences that I've had for
Yeah.
somebody, and people don't know who Hubert Eaves is, unless you read the liner notes and so forth.
Yeah.
And who does that anymore? So they don't know.
Yeah. Hmm.
But I'm sure that if you're in your from your 30s or 40s, 50s, 60s, you've danced to something that I'm been
Yeah.
involved
Yeah.
because I've been around. You
Yeah.
wouldn't know it, but thank God that I'm still here doing it.
Absolutely. And you mentioned growing up in Minnesota. Uh, I want to mention that you were actually one of the first talents to actually come out of that state, because everybody knows Prince, from mainly putting Minneapolis on the map, but you're one of the first talents to come out of that state and early on.
Yeah, Prince, they were kids when I was there. When I was playing around Minneapolis and St. Paul and so forth, they had young bands. I used to hear about this loud band that played on the corner, man, because my dad had the local barbershop in Minneapolis.
Hmm.
So I would go by and hang around there, and I would hear this loud band about maybe a couple of blocks away, and I didn't even know who they was. But later I found out that was Prince.
Oh wow, wow.
They were rehearsing. They would, they'd be loud, but yeah, yeah.
So you weren't that far from them then.
No, no, no. But
Wow.
I'm quite a few years older than them, so I'm
Right.
maybe at least 12 years older.
Right. Did you ever come cross paths with people like Rocky Robbins and people like that from that area?
Not really to the point where I knew who they were,
Oh, okay. Okay.
because my dad had the local barbershop. I'm sure, you know, um, at some point, I may have run into him and didn't even know who it was. But no,
Yeah. Yeah. And what age did you guys finally leave Minnesota or
I left in my uh, early 20s. maybe
Okay.
mid.
Okay. So you're there your whole entire childhood then.
Yeah, I went to California first.
Okay.
Took my family, California. I was able to immediately my first week there. I was able to sit in and sit in a club, and people were immediately were like, "What is this new sound? Who is this? Who is this?" Because I knew the songs of what was happening. I had been playing around Minneapolis and all, so I was able to sit in. And as I sat in, people noticed that there was a new sound. There was a young person coming in, because the band that had been existing there they had been there for years, and so
Yeah.
they needed a new sound, and the timing was right. And the brother that I sat in on, the keyboard player, was an older gentleman, and he was like, "Yo, man, I see the way people are responding to you and what you're doing." He said, "And I love it." He said, "I'm gonna tell you what, man. You go on and you take this gig. Don't worry about me." He said, "Don't take this gig and go do your thing. I'm a school teacher. I don't need this. Go on." And lessons like that were so powerful to me because
Wow.
that showed that it wasn't about ego and all of that. My man gave to me, and he said with his blessings, he said, "You take this." And so that was such a powerful lesson to me that I tried to do the same thing.
Yeah. And so you came to California on that mission to try to further your music career,
Oh
correct?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and it
I,
ended
I,
up, wow.
yeah, I played out in Minneapolis. I was like
Yeah.
every gig that you could think of almost. I was like in there. So and I was getting frustrated. I wanted to move, and
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's time to move. And I did the same thing while I was there in California. I got to the point where a brother came to me one night while I was on the gig and said, "Man, you need to be in New York, and you need to." He said,
Mm,
"You just got to find a way." And
mm,
it's something that a brother named McCoy Tyner used to tell me once when I was back in Minneapolis, and I got a chance to sit down with him. And I remember him saying, I had said, "Hey, man, I'd love to come to New York one day, man, but I'm afraid, man, because there's so many bad cats in New York, man. There's so many." And he said, "Well, man, you come to New York, you could be one of them."
mm.
And I had never thought of that before. I was like, "No, but." And he said, "No, no, you could be one." It's all about a mindset. It's all about
Yeah.
commitment and all of that. And so that was always there with me. The fear had always gotten to me. But
Yeah.
once I got,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. Once I got to California, I met this brother, and he kind of laid it out for me. He said, "Man, I got an apartment in New York. It's a one-room apartment. You can stay there with me." And what we did was once I finally did sell everything, move my family back to Minnesota, and then I took off to come to New York by myself for about a little over a month. We shared a room. We took turns sleeping on the floor, alternating rooms, alternate nights. He'd sleep on the floor one night, then the next night with me. And so dues were paid.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got a full membership. Whole card.
Very cool. You mentioned some of those early times, man. And then you also mentioned a very interesting name too. One of my favorite pianists, McCoy Tyner. In addition to that, who are some of the other pianists or some other influential players that have inspired you or that you listened to the most during that time?
Well, I guess one of the first cats that inspired me, man, was my dad brought me to see Bobby Lyle, who Bobby was the hometown legend in Minnesota. Bobby was extremely talented, man. He was like 16 years old when I met him, and I was 14. So I had been playing in blues bands and rhythm and blues and stuff. And my dad said, "Man, you got to come out of this. You got to grow. We got to get you out of here and go to the next level." So he took me to see Bobby, and Bobby was playing in a club with a trio with grown men. Now he's 16 years old playing, trio piano. And when I saw that, I'm like, "Oh, you mean I can play with two hands instead of just one?" And all that piano. And so, Bobby was one of my first inspirations on a
Yeah.
local level. But, as I grew and, Ahmad Jamal, man, which was I heard Poinciana and
Yeah, that's a
that's
classic.
classic, man.
Yeah,
And Ray Charles, and then Herbie Hancock, and to this day, Herbie's probably my all-time favorite. Herbie's in my spirit, man. I used to wonder how anybody could play any more piano than Herbie,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know. And but of course Oscar Peterson, and then you got all these different players, man, that I ran across and came across, and that have touched me in all kinds of different ways.
absolutely. What's your
Bernie Morrell, there's so many different, it's that's why I love the music, man. It's all the
yeah,
experience of creativity, man.
absolutely. What's your you got a favorite Herbie Hancock album?
Yeah, I would say with Dolphin Dance on it. It's got a song called Dolphin
Oh,
Dance.
one of the okay, one of the Blue Note recordings. Yeah,
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 Blue Note,
okay.
but I also love the stuff he did with Miles with the My Funny
Yeah,
Valentine, and all that stuff, man. He's monster.
yeah. He's one of my favorites too. We actually share the same birthday.
Ah.
Yeah,
Well, I'm looking at a picture right now on my wall. I wish I could show it to you without messing up things, but it's a picture of Herbie signing an autographed book for me, his
oh
book.
wow.
But also, I did an album. I played on an album that Herbie's on,
Okay.
so we're both on this, uh, and I had Herbie sign for me, and that's another one of my all-time blessings. You know,
Man, it's amazing.
I've been so fortunate, man, to hang with people. Like I grew up listening to Aretha Franklin and all. I didn't
Hmm.
know that, 40, 50 years later, she'd be singing one of my songs.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I mean? So as a kid, as a teenager, I'm listening to Aretha.
yeah,
As a kid, as a teenager, I'm listening to Ray Charles, and I'm playing "What Did I Say" on the electric piano. I didn't know I'd meet Ray Charles and be able to get on his bus and play on his piano. So there's so many blessings, man. So, I got so much to be thankful for that. That's why I want to give it. I try to give it out in my spirit and into the music.
yeah, absolutely. And it shows too, definitely. Definitely shows.
I
Yeah,
hope
yeah.
so.
Now you spent a lot of your early days, with Reggie Lucas and Mtume, part of those in the early '70s, a lot of those recordings. Talk a little bit about coming into fruition with those gentlemen and some of those other key players, and you guys did those recordings between like the '75, '78 period.
Yeah, we kind of all came up together. We were all struggling together. We were all playing
Mm,
with different bands like Carlos Garnett band, Gary Bart's bands, just different local jazz bands that were coming up. So we were always together. We always had a
yeah,
sensitivity towards one another, and we just kind of hooked up. And Mtume helped to bring us together because Mtume was very into the political scene as well too, and
yeah,
so he helped to bring us together. So once they established a band between Reggie and Mtume, we were like the house band. So we would do sessions, man. Like let's say for Phyllis Hyman or Stephanie Mills or the band Mtume or Roberta Flack. We
mm,
would do all of these kind of different sessions, and we just had a thing about being able to have fun in the studio playing off of each other.
yeah,
And some days were better than others. Obviously, some days it could get really, really tense, but for the most part, we enjoyed it. We loved it. We were respected. We were paid well. We just did what we loved doing, and we did it on collectively. So I would say that period was a great period to be a part of because we all gained from it. I learned so much, like even about songwriting. I learned a lot because you'd get people in like Wade Marcus, who was an exceptional arranger. He'd come in and he'd arrange strings and horns and a whole orchestra, and then you get to hear back when they play it back. the recording that you just played with, and you get to hear how the strings complemented what you played, or you
Yeah,
complemented what the guitar. So, and you're playing off of each other. That's what I kind of miss a lot of today, with the machines that
yeah,
taken over the past 20 years or whatever. We used to, that wasn't about that. We had to play off of each other. And if somebody had a bad day, you kind of helped to lift them up. That was the goal anyway.
right.
You
Right.
try to find that common denominator that we could all feel good about,
Hmm.
so that we can, when we finish with that track, we could go and listen to it and say, yo, that was dope, man. That was dope. What you played. Oh man, what you did there. Oh man. So that was the fun.
Very cool. And during this time, you actually put out an album, like you said, which was your first and only album at that time, the Esoteric Funk album. The process for that one, involving some of those key players. Did you have some of those songs already written, or once you got signed, you started the project, or how did that work out for you?
I had ideas,
Hmm.
but they really came to fruition more once I got the deal, because then it was commitment. It's like, okay, I got this project, I got to do this, and
Yeah,
I was just full of music then at that period. Now I wasn't thinking in terms of commercial. Can I sell it? Is it dance music? Is it this? I just was going by what I was feeling, what I was hearing, and I knew what I wanted. Or at least I thought I knew what I wanted from it, the musicians that I chose. So, and when I say thought, it's not that I had any doubts. It's just that I didn't really know. I just was
yeah,
following what I was
yeah.
feeling, and I knew I wanted to try different things. Like I remember one of the songs on that album, I played an acoustic piano, and when I listened back to it to this day, I remember the decision I made. I said, "Hey, man, what would it be like if I took this grand piano and hooked up uh, a flanger, which is a flanger is an electronic piece that usually goes on guitars,
Hmm.
and what it gives the piano or an instrument a kind of a warbly sound. Kind of,
Yeah,
I said, well, I
yeah,
wonder what it would sound like if I put that on this piano. And they said, yeah. I said, grand, this is a grand piano. You don't mess up a piano like that. I said, yeah, but what would it sound like? I
hmm,
pushed the engineer, and he said, all right, and we did it. And to this day, uh, I like it.
yeah,
I
yeah,
like it. It's different.
yeah. Ahead of its time.
Yeah, yes. I just like to try different things like that, and guys like Herbie Hancock was one of the ones who helped me to
Yeah,
stay open, be open about it.
yeah. He's definitely one of those innovators that pushed ahead before anybody else did, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah. And I think with your album too, because I know the album, like you said, you didn't focus on sales. I know it didn't really sell like it should have, but the album itself, are you aware that what that album is worth? That album is
yeah.
a collector's item.
I understand that, man. I saw one time, man. I saw that album was like somewhere about $500 or something, man. I
Yeah,
was like, whoa.
man.
Yeah. I said, man, it's but see, that's the thing. If so, it was a limited edition, you can't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
So I hope that with my new project that I have out now, that's getting ready to be released and all in its entirety, that people will revisit that,
Mhm.
at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing work, definitely. Definitely. It's still amazing to this time.
All right, I appreciate that, man. Really,
Yeah,
I'm glad you did
absolutely.
your homework.
Yeah. Now you like I mentioned, you worked with Mtume and Reggie Lucas. Now you also got forming with them. You guys did several other artists. You mentioned Phyllis Hyman, Stephanie Mills, all those amazing artists that you work with. Talk about doing some of those session joints for some of those people there, especially like Phyllis Hyman. Like you got to work with her like very, very early, before her career really got to blooming.
Well, actually, even before Mtume,
Mm.
and we did that project, I did a song on her very first album. Her very first. Her husband heard a demo. I can't remember where he heard a song of mine, and but when he heard it, he called me and asked me, hey man, can I use this song? Can I cut this song on Phyllis Hyman? And at the time, I didn't even know who Phyllis was. She had just came to New York, and same with him. So I was excited about just getting the song recorded. So I said,
Yeah.
sure, sure. And a song called "Children of the World." It's on her very first album. And so uh, I had it cut the way that I wanted to do it in my little home studio with cassette players going back and forth. But it had a groove to it. It had a really funky groove to it that I really liked.
Yeah.
And then once we went into the studio to recut it, it lost some of that. And I always felt bad about that because I liked the original the way it was, even though it was funky sounding and all that in terms of quality. But the feel of you know, but sometimes when you get into studio and it's like, no, but we can make it better. We can do this, we can do that, we can add this, we can, you know, sometimes it's just not about that. It's about no, keep that original, you know, that feeling, man. Don't lose that.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's about. You know, you can put all the icing on the cake all you want, but that cake,
Yeah. You still got to get that rawness of it.
yeah, man.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I remember I did a song once for D Train, and I wrote the track. I was in Kingston, Jamaica, doing another project for Francois Kevorkian, I think is, yeah, his wife. So anyway, I had a little Casio keyboard. One of those are some of the presets in it, but it had a sound in it and it had a little teeny drum machine in it, and I was just playing around with it, just playing. And so and it didn't even have a sequencer or anything that you could, like a computer in it. So whatever you played in it, it was live. So I remember doing that and coming up with this track idea, and I couldn't save it like on a disc or anything because that was before digital. You know, they were talking about back in the early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to grab this keyboard, little tiny keyboard, wrap it up in a towel, make sure that nothing hit it, nothing hit the knobs to change the tempo or nothing like to mess it up in any kind of way, and get it home to New York into a studio. Because the sound that it had, I was like, it was,
Couldn't lose
you know,
it.
I couldn't lose it. I couldn't lose it. And it had to be that.
Yeah.
That song ended up being a song I used for D Train. It's called Something's on Your Mind.
Ah.
And that song is like, so, right? Something's on your mind, right? Something's on your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah,
but the
the
sounds,
the sound sounds a little bit like a glockenspiel type.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
It was a unique little sound,
yeah,
and
yeah.
but I was able to get it and bring it home and record it before it got messed up,
Damn.
and
Wow.
then built the song around that, right? So
Wow.
brought in the, you know, but just, you know, that's what I love about the old school stuff, man. You had to you know, you had to think, you had to you
Work it
had
out.
to work it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, just figure it out.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and those are the things that kind of stick with you too, man.
Hmm.
You
That's
know, people
amazing.
remember it.
It's amazing. And you mentioned D Train, and that joint's one of my favorites and one of the bigger songs that you guys had together. You guys kind of came together in a strange way because you had a bunch of music that you had already done, and we're looking for a singer, but we're introduced to James through another singer. Is that correct?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. My son went to a school in Brooklyn called Erasmus High School. He was just a freshman, but the seniors in there, one of the seniors was Will Downing, and Will Downing. I went to the talent show they were having, right? And so when I got there, I got a chance to hear the different seniors that were performing, and one of them was Will Downing, and he was performing. I think one of what's the name song? Oh, I can't think of his name right now. But he was performing kind of a jazz song, and when I heard it, I was like, Al Jarreau. Al Jarreau, that's who it was, one of the Al's songs.
Okay.
And so I got a chance to talk to him afterwards. I said, hey, man, I really like what you're doing. That's cool that a young dude like you is listening to people like Al Jarreau. You know, I said, that's really cool because, you know, in high school.
Yeah.
And so he said, yeah, that's what I really like to do. And I'd like to, you know, if you'd be open to it, I'd really like to have you help me do something. I want to record something in the studio. And I said, well, give me a call. Let me see, you know, see what we got. So he calls me up, you know, of course I'm, you know, what, 15 years older than him. So I've already been experienced on a lot of different things. So I was able to help him. So
Yeah.
he says, I got this song, man. I got this idea, and can you help me with it? Well, he had gospel lyrics, but he wanted to do it with a dance type of version. But it, let me just say it like this: it was all mixed up. So it wasn't clear as to how it needed to be formed or shaped.
Got it.
So I told him, I said, man, let's focus on this part. Let's take this out and let's recreate this to make it one solid thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember the song we called it The Real Deal. I said, if it's not going to be a gospel, you can't, at that time especially, let's focus on, if you want it to be a dance song, let's make it a dance song. Let's make it or whatever it's going to be, so that you're not confusing folks with, you know, all these different elements.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we did. And anyway, we went into the studio, put the track together, and then he says, listen, man, I hear some background parts on it that I could use. I got a friend of mine from my Erasmus that I can bring in here. He could help out with some background parts. And I said, cool, bring him in, man. Let's see what we got. So he comes in the next session, and he brings James D. Train Williams with him. Now, of course, Will has his own sound, and James has his own sound. So, which, you know, now we know that Will has gone on to become the prince of sophisticated soul. but at that time, when I heard James D. Train, I heard the background parts that he was doing and the sound of his voice. I already had the track to the song called "You're the One for Me." I had already been just experimenting with synthesizers and coming up with stuff, and I was just in the lab, so to speak, right? Yeah. When I heard that voice, I was like, oh my God, man, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm talking about. I needed somebody who had that kind of power to cut through those tracks, you know, because I'm coming from R&B, funk, jazz. I had aggressiveness going on.
That power, yeah.
That power. And he coming from the church, he had that same kind of power.
Yeah.
And creativity. So he came by, he called me up, he came by. And I remember I said, look, man, here's this track. All I got this is all I got for the lyrics. I'll stand up on a cloud and shout out loud, you're the one for me. And I said, let me see what you can come up with, right? And I mean, as soon as he heard the track and he saw the direction where I was trying to take it, he pulls out his pen and he just starts writing. And he's singing and saying it. Next thing I know, he said, all right, let me try one. Next thing I know, man, the rest is history.
Wow.
That brother could write. I could go in and just tighten things up to make sure that they fit. But basically, you know, with the love I have inside of me, we can turn this. That's that brother.
Yeah.
So, and then what he would do is he would come up with his parts, and I'd say, "Uh-oh, I see you now. You didn't raise me. Well, I got to take you up to the next level." I come up with another keyboard part to take him to the next level, and he said, "Wait, wait a minute. So then he goes in and he comes up with something. And I say, uh-oh, then I gotta go. Okay, it's my turn again. So we were pushing each other
Yeah,
constantly, trying to just
yeah,
get that song happening. And and that, especially that first album, that it was so much fun.
yeah, yeah.
We
That
trying to,
song, that song was #1 for 6 weeks in 1981.
yeah, hey man, that song is seen. James D. Train is working right now in Paris to right as we speak,
Mhm.
doing that song. 40 years later,
Absolutely,
you know.
absolutely.
So, and
Great
it's
recording.
been, yeah, it's been through all kinds of people, man. From I'm trying to think. What's Biggie's wife?
Oh,
She
Faith
just
Evans.
Faith Evans had
Yeah,
recorded it. Didn't do
yeah,
so well with her, but
yeah,
so many people have. You see it on YouTube and you see it on Instagram. People are doing versions of it and so forth.
yeah.
So it's something to be proud of. Yeah.
Absolutely. What was it? What was the process like once you did connect with James and you guys started on that recording and you guys going to do 5 albums all together? What was mainly like the process? Like you did all the music separately and you came to what ideas that did you have things already done? You just wanted lyrics? How was your process working with James at that point?
Well, I would think in terms of because I'm always writing music,
Yeah, yeah,
and when I write, you know, I think in terms of, especially if I'm writing with a vocalist, I think in terms of, I hear them in my head, I hear the voice in my head, and I try to hear what would work and what won't work, and or what I think will work, and I don't always hit it, but I do hear it, and I think of them, I have them in mind.
yeah,
So I would put the tracks together and I'd bring them to James and I would say, this is what I got. This is the idea I got. This is maybe the title. Or I might even sing a melody, and let him take it from there. And with James, I could always trust that because he's such a great singer with a great voice, he's going to take it to the next level.
yeah, yeah,
And he's a musician as well. So I always knew that, I could trust him.
yeah,
I could give him a track and say, hey, man, here. And he knew that when he got something from me, that he could work with it. He trusted me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys going to make several just amazing recordings, albums, singles, and just one of my favorite parts of your catalog is D Train. No question. Music,
Yeah. Yeah.
music is absolutely one of my favorite joints, man. And what I love most about that union you and James had during that period, not only the music, timeless, but the lyrics. The lyrics, if you really dig and listen deep to the lyrics that you guys were singing about, just being uplifting, being positive, having a positive state of mind, just keep going, like keep on. That was one of those songs that I listen to a lot when you really need that push. So there's a lot of positivity and encouragement in the lyrics that the guys put to music at that time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like James says to this day, man, he says he would not want to sing anything that his mother wouldn't want to be proud of
Yeah,
him. And
yeah,
that was always kind of the driving factor. And I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, I'm a great grandfather, I'm
mm,
a husband, I'm a brother, I'm a dad. So all of those things are in me as well. I want to make sure that I'm passing, I'm putting out the good stuff.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, I listen to I cursed like a sailor too when I was young. So I mean, I know the street lingo and all of that
yeah,
too.
yeah,
At the same time, I want to, in my music, I'd like to bring out the most positive parts of myself
yeah,
and James.
absolutely. After the fifth album, why did you guys decide to split up and kind of go your separate ways at that time?
It was coming, and to be honest with you, man, once management and uh, corporate greed and all that kind of stuff gets involved, you get more than me, and I get, then things start getting
Yeah,
funny, and it's always third parties
yeah,
that but it's also part of growing too.
yeah,
There's a certain point where James felt like he had to grow, on his own because of I put such a signature sound to D Train James that he had to really kind of find out who James Williams is.
Yeah.
And I respect that. Just like I had to find out who Hubert Eaves is.
Yeah.
So you grow, you find out, well, just like, okay, one of my strengths is I like to write jazz songs. I like, and this particular project, like I said, is a legacy project, which focusing on some of my jazz stuff, even though I got R&B funk stuff in there too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's part of what happened.
Right. You mind talking a little bit. You said you created the sound, the sound for D Train. Most of that, all of that is you. You mind talking a little bit about the gear that you use during those recordings? Because those sounds are timeless. Like you can use those sounds a day and they'll hit,
Yeah, yeah. People have offered me big money for those songs.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I
if
can
they're off the
imagine.
water in Europe and Japan, I would never sell them. I
Mm,
still keep them to this day. And
mm,
I always felt like I was going to need them and want to use
wow.
them again. And so, um,
Now, have you revived any of those sounds for the new recording?
no, because
Okay.
I say this because this particular recording has been a legacy project, as I said earlier, dedicated to my dad and the jazz and so forth. This is not a dance D Train project,
Hmm.
right? But I am going to do my next project because now this is done. I'm on to the starting to think about the next stuff.
Yeah.
That's when I'm going there.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I still got all my original stuff, my
Oh.
original sounds and my key, all of that stuff. So only thing now is I'm about 50 years older. So I got to sit down and play now. I can't stand up.
Yeah. 50 years of experience to figure out more melodies, man. So I know it's gonna come out hot. I know it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's the one thing. I don't try to corral it and say what it's going to be. I just know
Yeah.
that it's just
Mhm.
positive energy, man, and I just need to tap into it. So that's the goal.
Yeah, absolutely. When you were in the mid 80s, I know you worked with a lot of different artists. You mentioned Aretha, Gary Bartz, and Stephanie Mills. Talk a little bit about getting songs to those artists. Were you just doing songs and shopping the demos to them? Did you find a vocalist to cover the songs and then get them to the artists? What was your process then for getting those songs out?
Because I was always writing, I would always reach out to people who I thought I could, who could interpret the songs that I was writing, right? And write with, because many times it was just music I had,
Hmm.
and sometimes I would pick the wrong voices. Sometimes I'd have to say, "Oh no, this voice is not going to work." You know what I mean? They might have wrote great lyrics, but the voice didn't quite work.
Mm.
So you become, I wasn't as sensitive to that early as I was later.
Yeah.
And you start working with more and more people. You say, "Oh no, this is not going to work for them." But so and so. So, but anyway, I was signed to CBS Songs as a writer.
Okay.
And so what they would do is they would reach out to me and they would say, "Hubert, we got so and so who's looking for it. She's got an album coming out and they need a song and they need somebody to write with. So we put you with them." And then they would send them to me, and we would sit down and see if we could come up with something,
Okay.
and or different guys, different singers, and just to see what would work. And sometimes things worked, but for a lot of the times it didn't. I
Mm.
found that I didn't have the great success with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I had more success with people that I knew, that I really knew, like James or somebody that I knew
Okay.
a personal relationship with, where I could really go in and we could sit down for lunch and and
Yeah.
laugh and talk, and next thing you know, ooh, I like that idea. Ooh, what you just said.
Yeah.
That's, yeah, that's where it would come from.
Yeah. There's got to be a vibe.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember what are some of your favorite recordings, like sessions, like or with whom in particular,
With who?
or anyone whom in particular that you like, one of your favorite sessions in particular?
Well, it was always my D Train sessions. First of all, I was in complete control. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
so I could say I could bring in people who were gonna bring more positive energy. Like I'd bring in the drummer Howard King. You know,
yeah,
back then there was no sequencing or nothing like that. This was
yeah,
all live. Bringing a live drummer, and sometimes you could be in the studio and you're working around with some meticulous kind of stuff, just technical stuff, and then you call Howard in to come play drums on the track, and all of a sudden he brings in the energy. It's like, oh my God, oh there we go. Then all of a sudden
you
you're
step it
smiling,
up, huh?
you're stepping up, you're having fun, and he's
Yeah,
cracking jokes, and he's coming in, and or you come in, the guitar player comes in and he plays a lick that you're like, oh, I didn't even think of that. Whoa, wait a minute. Let's tailor that. Cut this off. Maybe make this a little bit more, and maybe look. But the idea that they would bring in, so for so that was the stuff that where my strength was, and that's where my joy was, man. Once I got involved in the machines and the
yeah.
computers and all that, it wasn't as much fun, to be honest with
Yeah, yeah, it's a little bit more impersonal, if you put it that way nowadays, and everything's done now by, collabs are done by email and, cameras and things like that. So it's a little bit more impersonal.
you.
So
Well, you mean like we're doing now?
yeah, like we're doing that. But working, working on a project, I hear a lot of guys, from decades ago that collaborated with a lot of people in the past, and they always talk about those times when they were in the studio together and they were bouncing ideas off each other, and there was a vibe, there was an energy. And when I hear those stories, I visually see that in my mind because I've done it too. I've worked with guys in the same room, and it's different. It's
Yeah,
totally different. It's just a different element because you actually, when you're together, you just don't know how fast the ideas are going to come because you got two different minds going.
yeah, yeah. And all you need is one dude in there, man, or one sister who got a great sense of humor.
Yeah,
That can change everything.
absolutely.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I did a project. In fact, one of the songs on this new album, I did something that was so interesting to me, man. And I don't know how much time we have, but um, two brothers that I grew up with back in St. Paul, back in the '60s.
Mhm.
They came to my house and to visit and all. They both play guitar.
Okay.
And so they came down and they came down. I put them in my basement studio, and they were just kind of messing around with the guitars. And they came up with this little idea theme together, um, and it was so cool that they said, Hubert, I'm the one that into the production. They don't do that. They just play. They like that's their thing. They said, man, why don't you take it and do what you do? And I said, okay, cool, cool. Let me sit down with it. And then I added a bridge, and we kind of structured the thing together, just us three. And then the idea came to me like, well, man, what if we went back and got all the guys that we grew up with to add to this, like the guitar players that we grew up with, the the singers that we grew up with,
Mm.
the ones that are still alive,
Yeah.
and had them all, and then even people that we went to school with just through chatter.
Yeah.
Oh, you remember when we went to junior high school? Blah 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 blah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mixed all that in, recorded. I went to the bass player's apartment with a little recorder, recorded him in his apartment on the bass, and he was like saying, "Man, I can't do this, man. I can't do this. You gonna have to get somebody else." He said, "Man, because I haven't been playing." I said, "Yo, Toby, you could do this, man. I know you. I know you from when before hardly you even knew yourself. Kids together. I know you could do this." And he said, "Okay, man, okay." And he did it. And then we put it together. And then I went to my another one of my friends who plays keyboards, plays organ. And he drove up from Philly, got in a hotel room, and he was drunk. But we got into the room, had the keyboard there for him. And he's like, yeah. And I said, hey man, that's all I need from you is some drunkenness. So he's going, So we got him on there. We put, and then I had my hotel room because I was visiting there, and I called in this guy who's he's no longer with us. Wee Willie Walker, who's an international blues singer.
Okay.
I didn't even know that he had that big, that he was that huge.
Wow.
He was a little legend, just a local singer singing blues when I was coming up.
Wow.
But he went on to become a local, I mean, a international blues. So anyway, I got him to come in the hotel room, brought my mic and my little studio and Porter studio. He sang it, and man, this thing came out, man. I mean, when you asked me earlier, and you asked me what is one of the projects that this is one.
Okay.
Project that is very special to me. Yeah, this is one.
Yeah. Tell me something. Why so long? Why the long? Why you wait so long? It's been a long time coming, man.
Well, one thing, man, I have to say, in truth, lazy. I like doing what I do. And I don't have the desire to want to be pushed out to be, because I've seen so much.
You work when you're ready.
I work when I'm ready, and if I don't have anything to say that's different,
yeah,
or what's the point?
I can understand that. Yeah.
And how many people say, "Oh man, trap music is all the same. Oh, this music is all the same. Everybody's doing the same." Well, why should I jump into that?
Yeah.
If I don't have anything to say that's different, that
mm-hmm.
But here's what I would like to say on this interview for everybody that's listening, which is a very important point to me, and that is this: these fingerprints belong to me, just as yours belong to you. And if I can't bring my individuality, make that who I am, and bring that out to you, then I'm not even appreciating the gift that God has given me.
Yeah.
Mine doesn't have to be yours. Mine doesn't have to be anybody else's. Theirs doesn't have to be mine. But I got to be the best of me that I can be. And that's all I try to do. That's what I really want to do. And it took me a long time to learn that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't always have that.
Yeah.
But I got it now.
Yeah. That's years of wisdom, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Yeah. You got a couple of plaques back there in the back there, man. What are those accomplishments there? If you don't mind just reading off what projects those were for.
Let's see, that's Luther Vandross. I wrote two songs on that album.
Which album is that one by Luther?
Any Love.
Any Love, okay.
And then I got a song that I wrote with Luther for Whitney Houston's album. What is that? I'm Your Baby Tonight.
Okay.
I got another album back there with Madonna. I did a soundtrack for her movie, Who's That Girl?
Okay.
Another, what is that? That's another Luther album back there. I forget the name. And then Stephanie Mills, I got a bunch of stuff. I've even given stuff to my mother, my brother, my sister,
Yeah.
Like I said, you won't know. People don't know me. They don't. and it's not that important, one thing I want them to know, I want them to feel my music. I want them to, I don't even know if they're I want people to, if they're on the dance floor or they're singing a melody and it's like, they don't know that I did it, or it doesn't even matter. But I just want to know, I just like to know going to my grave whenever that time is that I made some kind of difference.
Yeah. But those that know do know.
Yeah. Well,
like myself.
I appreciate that too, man. I really do. I got an ego like anybody else.
You also should be proud too, man, because I just came across some material from Hubert Eaves IV.
Ooh.
Very talented, I must say.
Very talented,
You ought
man.
to be pretty proud, man.
Oh man, oh yeah, I'm the proud papa. That's right.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna be probably talking to him soon, man. Pretty awesome stuff he's got going on there.
Oh yeah, man. That dude, man. It's amazing, man, because I do. He'll call me up and say, "Pops, I need you to play a solo on this song," and I'll say, "Okay, I'll send it over. How you like this one?" Um, Pops, I think you could push this a little better. Come on, Pops, and I'll be like, "Okay, how you like this one?" That's closer.
So he's producing you now.
Yeah, he's producing me now. So, but we do that, and so when I say,
Yeah.
I call him, I say, "Yo, man, I need a drum track," because see, he plays drums and bass. So he's like, I need a drum track, man. Hook me up. He's playing on both on my new project, both drums and bass. So we've been doing that. We've been doing that for years. He actually, when he was 16 years old, he played on on the first D Train out playing drums.
Mm,
So we've been
wow.
doing this for years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've
Amazing.
got I had to back in the day when he was young and full of energy and wanting to play 50,000 notes on the bass and I used to have to say, "Yo, slow down, bro. Come on now,
Mm,
come on, slow down. Let's not lose this groove.
yeah. Yeah.
Lock in this the most important thing first." So he learned from that. We all get somebody always has to teach us different things, no matter who we
Yeah.
are. So we all learn.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely got it, man. I'm definitely enjoying all the cuts he's put out so far. So I've been digging on it for a while, man. So definitely.
He works hard too, bro.
Mhm.
He puts his time in, and I just want him to be so successful, man. My dad always used to say to me, he used to always tell people when they would say, "Man, your son is better than you." And my dad would always say, "I want him to be better than me." That was the whole point.
Mm,
Well, that's the way I am with my son.
yeah,
I'm giving you the tools to you take it further than I can take.
yeah,
It'll be different, you
yeah,
know. So I love him, man. And my daughter, same thing. I got a daughter who writes, and she's got stuff out here that she's just getting herself, man. She's got her own approach to the way that she does things, and she's a creative monster too, man.
okay, what is her name?
Dana Eaves.
Okay.
Dana.
Oh, awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
We'll be looking forward to some material by her soon, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah. Well, she's not focusing as an artist with R&B songs and so forth. She's into sports, um, physical rehabilitation.
Okay, okay.
Puts together projects. Her songs are geared towards helping people to get through.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Okay, very cool.
but the way that she's doing it is so cool, man.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So for the new project, I know you said you've been working on it. You got some songs ready. Is there a date that we can look for that project, a title for it, or some kind of information we got to look forward to?
Well, I tell you, the name of the album is called Drops, and it's going to be on the Drop Ins
Mm,
label,
okay.
which is my project, my label, and so forth. I'm releasing singles first. I'm trying to get a feel for what because I'm a new artist. I'm 90 years old, but, but I'm a new artist. So I'm trying to get a feel. And to be honest with you, so far, man,
Yeah.
what's in that around midnight is going further than I even expected. I mean, the way
Yeah.
people are responding to it, and I don't even mean as much in terms of numbers, even as much as I am how it's touching them emotionally,
Yeah.
how they're responding to the production, sound, and the whole thing. That I'm really proud of, and I'm just not only proud of it, but I appreciate how they're appreciating it.
I'm gonna put you on the spot real quick because of course me and you we talked earlier last week, and you mentioned a family member of Monk's really loved your interpretation. Talk a little bit about that.
Oh man, well, as I mentioned, I mentioned that I was able to play that song for Thelonious Monk before he passed in the '70s, and so forth. He gave me the nod and so forth. Anyway, I reached out to Thelonious Monk Jr. I wanted him to hear it. And so he heard it, and then he got back to me. And then he says, man, I love the interpretation of it. He said that song has been recorded so many different ways, but mine was really unique, and the way that he saw it. And he said that my dad would have been proud.
Wow.
Now,
Gotta love that. Yeah.
hey, I mean, you know, I still got the text, and matter of fact, I printed it out.
Yeah.
When a father and the son of one of the greatest composers, especially jazz composers of all time, who, in my opinion, wrote one of the most beautiful songs of all time with Round Midnight. That song deserves to be heard, man.
Yeah.
That's why I put it in a mode. That's what he said, what he was saying, that I was able to put it in a mode where people could hear the song, because you're so used to hearing this. Right? You're used to hearing it as a ballad, piano, jazz, and so forth. So to put it, to do it the way I did it, that's just the way I heard it. I wanted to, and I didn't realize that it was going to be help for a younger new generation to be able to hear that song.
Yeah.
I wish I had written
it. Very cool. Yeah, it's awesome. Amazing work, the video, everything about it, man. It's just perfect timing for it. So I wish you much success on the single, the video, and the upcoming album, man. I'm definitely looking forward to it myself as well.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Like I said, I'm a little nervous about it, but I will say that only because it's been so long and all. But
I understand. Yeah.
I will say this: I'm proud of it. So I'm releasing it, and I even got some comedy on there. I got an animation video and all this kind of stuff. It's nothing, you know. It's. I got some funk on there. I'm singing on it.
All right. All right.
I got one song on there where I'm singing on it, and because I'm not really a singer, I had to make it a comedy.
So you're stepping out from the back a little bit, coming up.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I got to bring these fingerprints out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And nice to have fun and poke fun at yourself too, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Have fun with it.
People when they see this video, they're going to be like, oh my God. No, that's not the same dude.
I'm sure it's going to be out of sight, man. I'm definitely looking forward to it, as with everybody else too, I'm sure.
Thank you, bro. Thank you, man. And I really enjoyed the interview, man. I enjoyed your pace. I enjoyed your questions. I enjoyed your spirit, man.
Oh,
and
thank you.
I hope people enjoy this whole experience of us, man.
I'm sure they will. Thank you so much, man. And Hubert, if you don't mind, before we take off, you don't mind letting the people know where they can find you, any social media, Instagram, Facebook information you'd like to share?
Well, yeah, go to Hubert Eaves on YouTube, for one, and you can see the Round Midnight video in its entirety. And I'm on Instagram. I'm still learning about social media, man. My daughter's teaching me this stuff. I'm like, I'm still learning how to play the piano.
Catching up to it.
But she's been an angel helping me, man, with her patience. So, but I'm on all the platforms, you know, the ones that I don't even know about.
Yeah.
She's hooking me up. So just look for Hubert Eaves III.
There you go. There you go. And ladies and gentlemen, look out for that album coming soon. The Round Midnight single out now, video out now on YouTube, on Hubert Eaves III YouTube channel. And then look for that new album coming out called Drops, coming out very, very soon. This multi-talented producer, arranger, songwriter, keyboardist, Hubert Eaves III. We want to thank you so much for stopping through Digital Soul Presents. I'm honored. Thank you so much.
Thank you, bro. All right.
Thank you.